And we are live. Hello, everyone,
Hello.
and welcome to the 97th episode of Devkami. And I'm Chi Leung, and
And I'm swimming.
yep,
Where
we
Tristan, you may ask. Here's where he's actually go enjoying himself, singing, dancing in the public, like ABBA or whatever, have
like
fun.
somebody with real life.
Yes. Be a diva. Fine. Sorry, Tristan. I wish to go to your concert, but coughing and stuff. Wish to be there.
Sorry, I forgot about it.
So that being said, let's start with our events.
Yep. Let's see what things are going.
Okay, I've been moving around the browser, so give me a while. So, oops, today is 27 is here. So the first one is we have my digital workforce event. This is actually an MSc event. So it will have a lot of online training, panel session on data, career development, a bit data science heavy, interestingly, but if this something you're in, do try to join. Uh, if it's free, why not? So yeah, that's happening. In fact, this is actually happening throughout the weekend. No, correction, it's happening throughout the week. This week, beginning today, yesterday, and no, actually, it's been. I think this is a whole month event. Interestingly,
Yep. It's
so
organized by it's or at least partly organized by FAST. I don't know
okay,
how
that explains so
FAST. Yeah.
much. So yeah, and the next one is
Oops, I
actually
removed the wrong one.
the next one is
Hello.
going cloud native. This actually organized by students. Tiru is
Oh, really?
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw he shared his
AWS,
experience there.
and if you see AWS, there is fast.
Yeah, there. Then this is Friday and Saturday. If you're interested, you can find the links and the details. Then Monday is Merdeka Day, Merdeka. So it'll be holiday for us. I don't know what to do on a holiday, but tell us what you're planning later.
Yep.
Then another Tuesday is my last day at work. Not important. There's supposed to be Tuesday. If there is detail, will be updated on the site. And actually, that's the whole week. Actually, that's the whole week of event.
There goes a week.
Yes.
So easy.
That yes. These are important here.
So,
Let's talk
yep,
about news.
yep.
So,
What are the exciting ones?
so this is interesting. Fritz Frog. Now, Fritz Frog is actually a peer-to-peer botnet. Okay, traditionally, when you had a malware around the servers, what happened is you will have a thing called a command and control server. Uh, command and control server. What
So
it means is that
basically, is if you for the foundation it's like RPC
yes,
something work. There is actually two ways to do it. One is RPC Lite.
yeah,
One is the uh pub sub Lite.
correct.
So
So either way, so this is interesting in a way. So as a result, sometimes when you look at the news when FBI actually raid a server, it's because there is a command and control server for malware. In fact, some of the state-based attack was well known because Malaysia actually holds some CNC server here. Uh, so which make give us a bad name in a way. Uh, so it's very centralized. Raid a server, and will take down. This is interesting because there's no it's peer to peer, make it a lot harder to take down. It's written in Go. Uh, it's not the latest trend. It's actually a trend that exists for a while because uh, it used to be virus are written in assembly and C. The reason for assembly is to they try to hide it very small in a payload for a very resource constrained environment. Nowadays, the resources are so big. Nowadays, you can literally write in a high level language. In fact, there's virus written in Python and Golang.
Yeah.
So
Also
this is actually
the
uh-huh.
so even the it's a bit of exaggeration, but even your normal web page like Facebook might be the bundle size of the assets might be bigger than a Golang binary.
Yes. Okay, so that's but either way, nowadays you do not need low level language to write malware. And of course, another trend that is very recent, a bit more recent than the old days of malware is that it's targeted to strategic area, etc. And this is actually an attack based on SSH server. So in the SSH server got SSH server got compromised. You're it. So it's written done in memory, constantly updating, and every time a SSH connection is starting, then they will open a connection for the malware to actually send a message over. So this is actually Linux Frog. Very interesting malware, very dangerous. Uh, well, I hope you guys are protected from it.
Do you want to go through like why botnets are so dangerous? Do you want to cover a bit about that? How
Uh,
what they are used for example?
so botnet is very interesting nowadays because you want people use that for stealing information, especially in the financial industry, uh, and all that. It also used to install ransomware because for ransom and all that. What else do they use for nowadays botnet? So many things. DDoS is actually traditional use case of a botnet. The whole idea is that let's say you have multiple a lot of computer infected with a malware. With one command, you can actually generate network traffic that will overwhelm the server. That's a very traditional reason to have a botnet. So yeah, you will see more and more nowadays.
Yeah,
So
especially
shall I move on? Uh
yeah,
huh.
especially everything is IoT now.
Correct. Expect no IoT, and the reason it's called IoT now is because your computer is actually your router is actually a very reasonably sophisticated computer, and they literally can run more and more stuff. You can run a Samba server, you can run a web server, you can run a media server if you choose to.
Yeah, and they're getting more powerful these days. Like Raspberry
Yeah.
Pi got 8 gig of memory and four quad cores processor.
Yes, and your router at least will be have 256,
I
which
think
is
they're gonna
really a
be.
lot.
I think because like the mobile platforms are getting to 64-bit. I think this
Yes.
kind of like not really low level, not at the SoC thing, but at least like
Yeah.
consumer grade chips will be much more powerful.
Correct. Yeah, so even your router do more and more things. So router is one of those things to set up and throw away, forget about it. Not anymore. Make sure you update it seriously. Uh, so you effectively have to manage your server at home nowadays, which is very annoying, but it is what it is lah. So let's move on before I take up too much time. A local web developer created AR map for RT routes.
Yeah,
This is actually available
awesome.
for Android and iOS. Honestly, I didn't try yet, but looking at the demo is very impressive. Uh, I know this. I don't want to brag, but I can walk around KL without a map or Google Maps, lah.
Yeah,
Because KL is so
see,
familiar to me.
same goes with me. I think it's the KL is surprisingly connected with public transport.
Yes.
So
As long as you go to your okay, but then my user route also covers the main place, so as a result, it's not that big. It's not that crazy, but it's still very useful to go to new places, which I might consider one of them because I'm quitting my job. I'm going to the zoo or whatever nowadays. So I might actually use this. I wonder. Oh, so what happened is they use a thing called AR, but later use Unity and Euphoria. I think we should explore that in the future. Maybe I should explore that in holiday. Hmm.
Yep. Then you
Let's
can
move
come up
on.
with a summary of your attempts.
Yes. All I want to do is to have AR to capture pothole. Can you imagine Pokemon Go for potholes? Okay, let's go serious. Uh, so apparently Microsoft had a data center in Johor.
Yeah, they just finished it after so many years.
Only 40% completion, and it's 2014, so it's actually relatively slow, like Malaysian project. I think, which I think is a bit, yeah, it's a
I'm
bit
not sure what
sad.
really happened
Yes.
there though.
Off topic, this is not the bigger project that got slow. The Navy had their ship that got delayed for so many years. It's a bit ridiculous. But we all have opinion about. I have opinion about big Malaysian project in a way that uh, often people just want the name but not the work. So that's my opinion on the situation in Malaysia lah.
Yeah. After
Let's
it's
move on
not
to the.
after it
Uh-huh.
move out of the attention, then it's most often might
Yeah,
not necessarily most often, but might be abandoned.
correct. So it's about name, say it once, forget about it, and just move on. It's all PR. So let's move on to the next one. iOS at one time was being blocked to give update because Apple required them to set up payment, but the update is free. So, but they settled it outside the court.
No,
No,
it's for in order for them to subscribe, they have to pay, but the Apple wants everything on the App Store to pay via them, so they remove it.
yeah,
But it's not a
okay,
requirement. It's just they're doing free hosting for other people. So I think
right,
they reverted the decision
yes.
and add it back again.
This is interesting to me because I'm from the Microsoft area where Microsoft got sued for antitrust. For this precise reason, in fact, the reason Microsoft got sued in the last time is because they bundled Internet Explorer,
Yep.
and they do a lot of practice to get people to make sure people only use Internet Explorer. This is actually the same. This is actually the same for iOS. Believe it or not, you only have one marketplace, and this is the way to do this. And the argument that you have multiple operating system around the world doesn't quite is there, but Microsoft is on the same situation, so it get really interesting. It's actually one of my favorite topics, but unfortunately, I believe the community and more importantly, the governments around the world are not as willing to do it as last time. But that's my opinion on that, lah.
Yeah. Let's see
So
what we can do to go forward then.
correct, because at the same time, Apple also had a case with Epic.
Yeah. They're in the field
Epic
right
is
now.
actually doing correct. I think the last update for that is the game engine. What's the game engine name again?
Unreal.
Unreal Engine are allowed to be are allowed and must be
Yeah.
on the platform, which is actually a very
It's
sane decision because it should not block libraries. Because it's not. But it should not block libraries. That's one thing.
yeah. You have no idea how many of the projects are in the work that might be affected, right?
And more importantly, library is a very general use thing lah. So it's still they still allow the Epic case to go on. And also one of the rules nowadays is that their platform, their rules, that's where things get a bit iffy, like because once you had a platform that relies by so many people and you only have one party to control it, I think
Yep.
that's is a position that is very troublesome. Let's move on to the next one.
Yay.
This is the last one. HashiCorp introduced a cloud platform. How does this work? Do you know?
I have no idea. I don't use Shikov stuff.
Yeah, but they do provide a lot of tools.
Yeah.
So the tools are used for
I
actually.
think the most
making
famous one is
this-
Vagrant. Everybody knows about it.
Yes. Oh, really? No, I know Vagrant, but I thought it would be a bit died off nowadays.
Yeah. No, but they're still pretty popular no, still not popular, but well, still commonly
Well used
used
lah.
to bootstrap
Yeah,
development environment, or at least the
right.
environment to for productions.
Okay, cool. So with that said, I think that's the last news on my side.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to open the
The
next
good news,
one.
I'm gonna share some
Uh-huh.
good news at least. Is that the wild
Uh-huh.
polio in the polio news, the wild
Yeah, yeah,
polio
yeah, yeah.
in Africa is
Eradicated.
eradicated.
Yes.
Yay! What does it
So
mean by wild polio? Is that the native, the what you call it, the natural occurring one are
yeah,
dead. So
yes.
there are still some I think 100, around 100 cases of um, polio from the virus mutate, a rare mutation from the vaccine. Yeah, so vaccine is not actually. It's actually very hard to say that without appealing to, like, gonna appeal to the anti-vaxxer thing, but
Yes.
yeah, there are
It
some
basically is
risks
virus.
in vaccine development still.
Correct. But
But it
unfortunately,
doesn't
this
mean
like
that the user is totally. It doesn't mean that the user it it actually came from the mutation. It doesn't mean that it any. I mean any. I'm not gonna cover that
it's a
anymore.
minority
So
case. It's
yeah.
a
So
minority
just yeah.
case.
You still need to take your vaccine.
So polio is also very interesting because uh, people really literally cannot walk, and we used to set up. I mean, leper colony are there, but we used to send this the people to this colony as well because polio are
Yeah.
so infectious.
I've
So
seen actually seen them back in hometown. Like one of my classmates' mother was she had I think the limb you stop growing, and
yes,
in some
correct.
serious cases you cannot breathe. So
Yes,
there's this thing called iron lung.
yeah.
But the commonly one that survived, you can see they actually have uh standard, I mean standard growth on the limbs. Some
Correct.
at least one or few.
So which is why I take vaccination very seriously.
Yeah.
Polio is one reason for it. And let's go on to our episode. So actually, I should show you the one more thing before I show this. Actually, there's two. One is this the 20 this is the 29th anniversary of Windows 95. No, it's 25 years anniversary of Windows 95.
And
And
also,
this is the 29th year anniversary of Linux
yeah,
kernel. So actually, Linus actually implemented that a bit earlier, but he announced this project in the Minix user group. Let me find the link. Here
I
you
think it's
are.
more like he released for people to try it out.
Correct. So let me share this out as well. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, I lost my tab. I lost my tab. Share. Blah, blah, blah.
Sorry.
Uh,
The the bad air quality is back again.
yes. Okay. How on earth did I lost it? Let me share my entire screen. Now you will la 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 la. Nope, not this one. This one. So this is the first one. Window. So in the old days we had this thing called Usenet. This is way before forum exists. This is way before Facebook exists. This is way before MySpace exists. Uh, do people actually remember what is MySpace? Oh well, whatever. And Linus Torvald from university actually announced there's this new operating system work with. He worked on this Unix base and all that. He only created kernel and only a few components. On the
Can you
Minix,
make the image larger?
I hope I can
Yeah.
better.
And yeah, I think I muted my mic just now. I was saying I'm too young to know about MySpace.
So this is actually very important because at around the same time, in the earlier 1980s, a bit earlier, uh, Free Software Foundation actually started a whole Linux utility project. They aim to create a Unix operating system, but they started with all the utilities like GCC, all the bin utils, the ls, the ls, cd, etc., the shell and all that. But they don't have a kernel yet. They're working on that. There is popular kernel, but their utilities are actually mostly available. And because GCC exists, Linus actually can compile his own operating system. Uh, and kernel, so he got a computer to use.
Oh, I
Yeah,
muted myself again.
go on.
There was a kernel for GNU. It was called Herd.
Yeah, but it's keep on experimental mode. They didn't get released, right? And this is actually very important in a way that soon after the GNU toolkit are actually the GNU utilities are actually ported to Linux, and that's the beginning of Linux being used in production, lah.
Yeah,
So
GNU/Linux, right? According to RMS.
yes, it's effective nowadays, and which RMS actually is not wrong because Linux is a kernel. But that being said, we use the same thing, so we don't really care nowadays. In fact, nowadays you even on some of the Docker images we don't even use GNU tools nowadays. Sorry, it's very interesting. So in a way that he's totally not wrong, because we can totally live without GNU utils. That being said, uh, so much later, Linux actually being used. Then you got support. Interestingly, IBM support them, right? IBM actually, I do not know what's the year, but IBM actually donated the system development tools for the Linux developers. Imagine this, right? What's the oldest organization that built operating system in the world?
AT&T.
IBM is one of the earliest one
IBM,
because
okay.
IBM actually built mechanical computers in the 1900s.
Okay,
Then
fine.
after that,
Yeah, it's mainly started as the network switch, right? The telephony switch, right?
no, actually, it's a bit.
Okay.
They use it to tabulate. Their mechanical computer are used to tabulate the American census. Then after that, they may not involve in the early computing project, but later they built. In the 60s or so, they built some of the earliest business use operating system, which actually used till now. As a result, they have very rich experience in Linux operating system, they donate code, etc. And this is actually one reason why on the IBM system they got very good Linux support, because they actually contribute codes and all that. So I'm going to tell you this. At this time, at this moment, nobody thought Linux would be used everywhere. Nobody, right? Uh, until 2000, until 2000 or so, Microsoft are seriously against against Linux. Some companies are suing IBM and various Linux companies. Uh, the support are a bit not as good, to put it mildly. When I first used Linux in 2005, I'm going to say this story again. I only get shell on the IBM ThinkPad because I use an old kernel. Using new kernel do get things easier.
My first one is actually I forgot. I don't think there's a version, but my first one was a Slackware.
Yeah.
So Slackware was pretty minimum. Like the way we install is we download tarball.
Yes.
So I don't remember there was much packet managing. Then after, but I remember that the development goes really fast.
Yes, it's very fast.
Like 2004, right? 2000, I remember I used the 2006 one, where
Yep.
I mean I remember because the Ubuntu release number is so memorable. I remember that I tried the 006.
Ubuntu actually the Warty Warthog are out, and Hardy Warthog is actually on 06 6.04. Actually started from 6.04. That's where they actually send a CD. No, actually
send a CD with stickers.
Correction.
You asked for it.
I used 5.04. That's a bit earlier, 2005.
You won't.
Uh,
But I think I started Ubuntu around 6.06,
yes,
but it was still pretty rough. But the desktop is already pretty usable.
correct.
And at that
So
time, people were experimenting with 3D desktop.
yes,
It looked
yes,
fancy for my age at that time, but yeah,
yes,
it got. I think they got merged together like Compass everything. Last time it was
correct.
Barrel and those things.
So it used
So
to
this
be their
fancy.
own thing, but as a result, it's a fork of X server. But as a result, they merged back in, and turns out that those things
With
are very
technology during
useful and
chaos.
modern. It's very useful for modern day of desktop
Yeah.
design. So uh, so which is why the desktop actually looks good and all that. So this is around. So people do take Linux very seriously. At that time, it's on server, but in Malaysia, things are actually a bit different. A bit different because in 2004, 2005, the expectation of the industry is that we still this is still a Windows world. Nobody take Linux seriously. Uh, when I was in UM computer science department, everybody expecting a few things. You deploy for Windows. .NET is the future. .NET is the future. You should learn C Sharp or VB.NET. Let me open up. I wonder if I can open this
I
slide.
think I missed that generations at least. No, this that was me sharing some of the old videos of. It was
Yeah,
before. I remember before Vista.
Windows. Yeah, before we start,
Definitely
correct.
before Vista because I was still in secondary school. Vista
Yep,
released after a few years after I came out. So
correct. So, but after that, things get very interesting again. I tell this story before. What happened is AWS is out there make hosting so cheap. Even though it's cloud and all that, but it's effectively hosting and they are so cheap. But the only way for you to use it is to learn Linux. And guess what happened, right? So Linux
I
take
think
over the
also
server.
For Microsoft side, they also realized that most of the Azure customers are using Linux.
Yeah, correct.
So,
So so either way, costs are there and all that because before that, before 2004, your Linux server are sitting in one place. They literally installed it on 386 in 2000 in the early 2000s and shove it under the desk to run your file servers and printing
mm.
servers.
And also, you don't have to. One of the main point that I think some of the people it's actually not really common these days. But
Yep,
back then, you had to pay for your web server,
correct,
and Apache sort of Apache is it's not the first, but it's actually the most widely used and was the most user friendly at that time,
cor- correct.
and came with easy PHP support plus,
And
and that
vhost, virtual
yeah,
hosting,
vhost
virtual
yeah,
host is awesome.
it actually grew Linux to like the mainstream for server
Yes, in the server
usage.
scene,
Yeah,
correct. So, but this is a story I've been saying over and over. Let's move on to the next one, right?
yeah. Let's
I
see some
did,
fun stuff.
yes, I tried to find Windows 95 release information. I messed up. Okay, here you are. Let me open up. Let me open the wiki first, then I'm going to show on that. La, la,
My question
la.
is it released on
Yep.
95?
Uh, let me open up the. Let me show the tab. Okay, here you are. Let me
25
zoom
years
in.
ago,
Yes.
I was still in primary school.
So many people thought that Linux and all that is actually very young operating system. That's not actually true.
Yeah,
Uh, it's not actually true because the PC people actually, the PC people and Windows people are very oblivious about other operating systems since then. So, Win, so that RM release to manufacturing is 15, but people only get it by 24th, which is actually a few days ago. Uh, Windows 95 is interesting for a few reasons. One, this if you use a browser and computers in the 90s, very likely the first computer you use is Windows 95. 3.1 exists, but they are like a bit rare, very rare. When MSC come out, there's around the 97 like, or so. Very likely the computer you use will be Windows 95. Okay, this is the computer that you will use your modem. You get your network, you connect to your computer, you use a browser, you will use Netscape.
Really? On 95?
It,
Is it or is it 98?
no, it's 95 because I remember that because Windows 98 are not out yet.
Okay.
It's
And
it just barely before the time.
and the modem is still not it's still not TCP and TCP IP, right? I remember
No, no, no.
they were
By
using
default,
some their own protocol.
which is why you had to install WinSock. You had to install WinSock for you to actually get socket capability and all that.
Network support is third party, like in short.
Correct, correct. So it's not by default you don't have networking and all that, but this is a big deal because this actually shaped a lot of people's idea about computing, right?
Oh, Internet
So
Explorer is actually available as a add-on
yes,
for 95. Okay.
correct. So I'm going to switch tab again. This time I'm going to show you how to install that later, but it's very cool. Actually, we already saw that just now. So this is how actually Windows 95 look like.
Hey, it looks pretty
remember
modern.
Yeah, it looks pretty modern, right?
Still the same, still similar to what Windows nowadays is.
But imagine that this is 256 graphic. The color is actually less than what you have right now, which is why it look very weird. The icon notice that it's
and
actually
it's
look
six
pixelated.
and the operating system is 16-bit, right?
Yes, correct. Even though you got 32-bit, yeah. So let me open up. You have to set up your network.
Because I remember
install the default.
the normal one, the normal version where everything is getting more modern is 98. 95 is
Correct.
still a bit rough on the edges. But
Correct.
you can see like I can see like it's basically now still look the same on Windows 10.
But this is actually a lot because at that time when people get Windows 95, we get like at most 16 megabyte of RAM, and that is a lot. 32 byte is a lot. I remember 32 byte is a lot. We don't get a lot of RAM. 120, definitely not 128. I remember I jumped straight to 256 much later.
So what's
And
the network is the network comes with the default the network the in the control panel.
see, I just connected the browser for the first time. Then I need to set up and all that. So one of the experience that people bought for Windows 98 and 95 bought is actually the idea of a wizard. Begin automatic setup. So there was automatic setup of stuff. I do not know how it worked and all that.
Does it work on a VM?
I don't know. I'm doing it right now.
Does
So because one of the things they do for Windows is that they actually assume that you use a modem. So LAN party are not common
oh okay. So
right?
so the VM didn't emulate it.
Yeah, correct. Then this is why we have modem. Do you remember what modem is?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have a lot of this.
I'm too young for that. I never knew what the modem is.
So and also one of the things that Windows 95 very famous is the security is useless.
Yeah, I remember the operating system can access the interrupt, right? That's why
Yeah.
the famous the famous thing about Windows last time was that when it crashed the whole thing, right?
Correct. Oh, also the okay. So I'm doing a few things. So another thing is another thing that Windows 95 bring to people is that you should not touch the command line. Command is sacred. It's a magic. Do not
Is
touch it.
the let me ask a very important question.
Yeah.
Is solitaire in 95 in the
in the VM, the short answer, I believe it is, but unfortunately, I think I'm running a game right now and I might have to kill this thing.
Okay.
Uh,
It's dead.
oh, it's there, it's there.
Oh, what is this?
Well, Sim Tower apparently.
Oh, I know about that game, but I'm too young to know. Fun Pack 3D. Whoa. Hey, it looks pretty. It looks very flash. Like,
Yeah, but unfortunately, I'm going to exit now.
why?
Uh,
It looks so fun.
yeah. Those days, if I run this on the computer, it would literally hang. It would literally hang. I can see it take a while. I got notepad and all that, but even though
And the welcome is a notepad.
yes, but this is not by default. It's something the creator create.
Oh, okay. The
It's not
VM from the VM.
correct.
Okay.
Then you install program using here. Then uninstall through here. Then you do you remember the screensaver? I wonder whether I can trigger the screensaver.
Not this one.
Okay, I don't think it can show here. I don't think the emulator can show everything. Ta-da!
Whoa.
So the screensaver originally exists because your CRT screen is actually shooting electron to the phosphor, right? Phosphor. So the thing is, you cannot have the beam to actually hold for too long in the early days. So you just like have screensaver to move things around so that
You
the
don't want
beam
the
are not
image to be burned in. It also, I think,
correct.
it's also occurs to LCD, right?
Correct.
So you don't want it to be burned in.
So
Oh,
ta-da!
OpenGL really?
This simulated lah. So
Okay.
by default, OpenGL are not part of Windows for a while. I'm going to tell you that. In fact, one of the things that actually revolutionary is like 3D and all that. So yeah, yes, Windows 132 with Turbo Switch exists.
Yeah.
Uh, then you of course one of the things that introduced to a lot of people, even though you do not think about it that much, again is screensavers. You can use screensavers. You can use your own photos, right? So and you have icons, network sharing, and all that. So what this is one of the operating system that actually shape a lot of people's opinion on computing. Then you have Windows 98. So Windows 98 actually introduced a lot more stuff. For example, I don't remember what they have, but superficially it's the same. Uh, so they have a lot of behind the scene thing, but you got better internet connectivity. So Windows 98, where I actually first developed for the web, and how I do that last time is actually using Notepad. You cannot do that in Windows 95. You can do it in Windows 98. Uh, yeah, more on the OpenGL story later. That's very cool. So to build a website, you matter of you create HTML tag and all that. Create, boom, it's revolutionary. You literally like, whoa, I am a web developer. Then from there, we're going to upload to GeoCities and all that. We have to use FTP. Do we have FTP here? FTP is a third-party app, by the way.
I don't think the FTP is there.
Yeah. Oh, we have multimedia thing. Interesting. Oh, of course, you got Sound Blaster. Sound Blaster Simulator. So,
Yeah.
see, Netscape Navigator. That's
This setup is considerably high end back in the days.
Yes. Look at this. Netscape Navigator 2.1. because I didn't set up network here, but that's not important. Yeah, Windows 95 doesn't come with internet, we said before.
Yeah.
In fact,
It
there's
doesn't come with a TCP/IP stack as well.
correct. And at that time, Microsoft are very they're the big company. They're actually bigger than Microsoft at that time. So they want to push everything under the Microsoft umbrella. So you would have like you have to use Microsoft Online, you have to use Internet Explorer, you have to use Office. Then what else you have? You want to share file between network, you have to use all that. So, oh my goodness, that is way before PageRank. This is way before PageRank, right? PageRank, Google didn't even exist yet.
Yeah, no page rank.
Google didn't even exist
Yeah,
yet.
where I remember where everything was portal, right? So
Yes,
they
we
they
use
work
a
like
thing called
newspaper. Yeah,
yes.
where like I think the Yahoo homepage do the same. Like we get to see everything. Then you interact through the homepage.
Let me see whether I can access GeoCities. I want to.
Oh, he lost swimming. Yes, Alta Vista Archive. But the search was pretty primitive back then. It doesn't even do. It's not real. We have to type in the exact word in order to get what you want. I think we lost swimming for good. Freeze him. So, let me share. I think Yahoo is still the same now. Is it? Let me share. Oh, they changed it now. So, yeah, that's before my era. Yep, swimming is back. Hey, we got two swimming. I don't think AOL is here. It's just, but it was the common. It's a common thing where when you subscribe to an internet plan, they give you like disk drive where you run the software and you're supposed to do your things uh uh or on the I don't know what they call it like yep uh okay, we're still waiting for swimming. I remember we used to interact with the internet via the software that the ISP providers. So like AOL, I'm not sure about AOL because it was never around here, but we get something similar as well, like a disk to install the utility. Yep. Everything is let me share my screen. I hope it doesn't crash my desktop as well. So you get this kind of this. But in my case, it's like the jarring, the TM, this, but they are basically junk then. But then I think streaming is having some internet issues. I think streaming you need to restart your computer. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's related to some of the issues we had previously. PC Mac, yep. PC Mac some of the PC Mac were really good. They are pretty expensive, but they offer not just but they offer not just nowadays magazines are like like a collection of advertisement, but back then there's still a lot of advertisement, but the columns were pretty interesting, and there's always several useful session where they share how to program. Yep, I remember the interrupting with Windows 95. I need to verify that. I remember like Windows 95 is like the last, or not sure whether it's a 95 or 98 was the one that you can still interact directly with the interrupt. This I don't know about. This, yeah. So with assuming I have not much to share because I'm pretty offline until pretty late. So though I can share some open to this.
All right, I'm in.
Yes.
Unfortunately,
Welcome
the house network got crazy. I need to figure out why. So either way,
somebody call you.
yes, crazy, right?
That's what happened last time, right? It's
Yes,
a luxury. It's a luxury that most people don't get to encounter these days. Is that when we're online, the thing that we dreaded most is somebody call.
yes. So to go online, you literally have to wait at 12 a.m. for me. And you know when for a lot of for me, that's why I become a night owl until I recover much later. So I will literally like spend my time online from 12 to 4 or
Yeah.
so.
Good.
And they charge by the hour. Can you believe it? They're literally charged by
Yeah.
the hour.
Charge per hour, then you have a congestion where at the peak hour, like let's say at the like in the afternoon, the bandwidth that you get is actually worse than in the middle of the night.
Yes. You damn kids actually get internet 24 hours a day, right?
Yeah.
24 hours. Those days we had to actually stay until this. I think somebody actually called just now and my internet is dead. I think. I think somebody just touring in my house.
I think the in my case that my experience is a bit different. The call is still in, the phone will ring, but
Yes.
they're gonna be like your mom is gonna, oh, we lost you. Your mom is gonna say, oh, I need to take this call, and you go offline. So yep. Zumi got a call, I guess.
I bet I clicked back on my phone. So it's crazy. So
Okay.
anyway, our internet experience are literally shaped by that, and but however crude the tools is, using Linux is literally a privilege because you're not going to able to download all your DVDs, CDs actually, CDs to actually install it. The hardware is not there. So if you're going to start programming, very likely you're going to install on a Windows machine, not Windows 95, maybe a bit early, more likely
I'm a
Windows
bit.
98.
I'm that old, but I'm not that old. So I'm one of the. I'm not sure if you say privilege or not, because I started my programming on Linux, so I never get
Yeah.
to experience VB or access these things. So that's a bit
So
unfortunate because I I never encountered it.
but for me is I use Windows 98 for a while. It's only
But
Windows 50.
I think it's just
Uh-huh.
a few years of difference, and that was how much it is. I mean, Just
Correct.
like because I'm a bit younger than swimming, and
Yeah.
just that few years, yeah, just that a few year, and I'm so much more privileged already.
Yes. So Windows 98 I actually used Windows 98 for a long while actually. Uh, it's only in university where I got good internet where I began to use Linux. But before that, the environment for learning programming is actually very different. Uh, I know this sounds weird nowadays, but those days you had to pay for your compilers. You had
Yes,
to pay for your compilers on Windows. I'm
Borland,
thankful
right?
with
I
the
remember Borland was really big, right?
yes, we had to pirate our software, but on the other
I
hand, I
heard it
also
from
come
my friends.
uh,
Yeah,
at that time as well. What happened also is the main GW
really?
guys are awesome. They
Okay, I
actually
didn't know about
released
this.
GNU tools for Windows, so which is actually awesome because you actually get to learn some programming. Then there is this group called Dev Dev C++, I believe, that
DevShed C++.
provide huh
DevShed.
yeah
DevShed. They're still
DevShed.
being used because one of the kid that I mentored, he was still using it.
So okay,
Yeah.
cool.
I think one of the
Uh,
I think one of the cool features of using Linux last time is that you got, if you want, I got Python, I got PHP.
yes, for me, my first version of Python is on
I
Windows,
got Pro,
and you do not always get all the
and
support.
you just run.
Yes, correct. So the developer support for Windows just not there for open source. Nowadays, in fact, nowadays for Windows, you literally had to implement a whole Linux in virtual machine, optimize it to get everything work properly. So Windows 95 at time until around 2008 is where the whole software development one get very interesting because one, Microsoft is big, totally in this world. Nobody take Apple seriously. Seriously, nobody.
Oop, I think swimming pressed the back button again. Come back and swimming. Let me
The back,
guess, you press the back button.
yeah. Uh, so the mainstream programming at that time in Malaysia is you had to do VB6, even though the support is not there anymore. You
Okay.
literally had to build a software for it. That's the business lah. That's what I thought, and that's the so-called demand is lah. Uh, of course, commercial software, the banking they have their own guys, but that's another story. Uh, so up until this is the during MSC where MSC is still a big thing and all that. Uh, when you do your web development, you actually do HTML. There's not much of a backend unless you do CGI. Uh, yes, IBM and Microsoft is there because so many things, so many reasons for that. The whole antitrust case, we cannot bring back for the whole Apple thing. Believe it or not, the whole Apple go on.
IBM was the bad guy back then.
Uh,
So
yes, IBM is the chaos is weaker during that time. In the 80s,
yeah,
they're totally
getting
evil.
yeah. Then it's the rise of the rest of the companies. Like the big
Correct.
ones are Apple, and Apple wasn't that powerful as well, but it was one of
No,
the alternative platforms, the
correct.
mainstream alternative platforms.
So Apple at the time literally are the hipsters because only the hipster people use it.
Wow,
Right?
we got a lot of gems from Cairo.
Yes. I tell you, we need to bring him in for this, and we totally forgot about that.
We need somebody over there.
It's also the golden age of operating system development as well. They actually have BOS is there.
BOS, yeah.
BOS are super
BOS was
super
like really popular.
yes, and they're also
Uh,
super advanced compared to Windows
and
95.
and
Seriously,
the crowd of BOS were the crowd of what we are the multimedia folks.
correct. They have real time support for multimedia editing,
Yeah.
file system that acts like databases. They have all the things that we take for granted nowadays. We
Yeah.
lost the technology. We
Yeah.
literally lost the technology to
No,
develop it.
it's pretty sad, but it's the BOS was going to become the new OS X.
Yes, correct. Then at that time, the Unixes are go all over the place. Virtualization go mainstream on Solaris. So yes, there's jails and all that. Solaris beats the hell out of there. And when you do a startup nowadays, when you do startup those days, you're not doing Linux, right? You're throwing money to get yourself a Solaris. Expensive, but it's a damn good cost.
uh, yeah. So
It's
Solaris
crazy.
was pretty advanced. Even some of the the technology that we're using now was still catching up or adapting to some of the method they do things with.
So literally, imagine that time is the golden age of operating system development. You got also operating system. Some of the thing are missing, totally missing until we
But
start
they are very
again.
proprietary, and I think the one of the reason why they oh, I forgot one of the big guys back then is SGI.
Yes, SGI, which actually
SGI was really big.
and they're the one that actually rendered Jurassic Park. All
Yeah.
right.
If you're also like doing heavy graphic stuff, you have those really expensive SGI box.
Correct. So I remember that Jurassic Park are the reason. I remember that actually rendered Jurassic Park, all that. Uh, so yes, all the interesting thing are happening down there at the deep system level,
Yeah,
and we
not on the
almost lost
browser
it.
level. We migrated a level above. We are now fighting at the browser level.
Yes.
Back then, people were fighting for the OS or platform level.
And now we still do that between Android and Apple. We're doing the same thing.
Mm.
Linux are thrown to the main side. There's not much better for the. There's not much of a. There's some better on the desktop side but they are mostly loyal, right? They're mostly loyal, and people still think that open source are niche. The world for open source is very different. The world of open source is
Yep.
very different in a way that, which I think is good or bad. Good that all the development tools are available. You can actually go as deep as you can or high level as you can.
Yeah,
You're
I, I
literally a browser doesn't work,
I want to
right?
highlight this point because it's it's a very sad thing. Reality is that things change so much and they're fragmented so much,
Yes.
and because like let's say if you're specialized in certain Unix flavor for no Unix for certain for your work, then if it dies out or get taken
Yes.
over, then you basically are left knowing nothing. So that's
Yes.
one of the sad state of why you see some of them can catch up.
So can you imagine that during the same time, can you imagine that suddenly a whole generation of VB6 developers suddenly had to build software for the web, right? The whole model is so different.
I
And
don't
suddenly
know.
it's like,
ASP isn't that bad right now. I never tried.
oh, a VB6, then you have to jump to ASP. ASP is very bad because they have their own way to do things. Then the .NET guys have their own way to do things, the code behind and all that. They have their own templating, but proprietary until recently. Uh, so .NET is the reason why you have web development on the Windows side. Then you can only deploy on the Windows server. Crazy. But then, then the cloud there, the only viable option is on Linux machine. Everybody deploy on Linux. So you're either using PHP or at that time maybe on Rails. But PHP is big. It's huge, right?
It's huge. It's so easy to do work.
Yeah,
It's
but that's the thing. The
yeah.
only thing that remain after the after the early just before the 2010s or so, everything's died out. Everybody are moving to the cloud. So open source mean in a way that you can deploy on these servers. The .NET guys are still in the .NET guys place in the corporate. The Java guys are still doing Java things in the corporate. A lot of the software development are the open source one, meaning you are using Linux and all that. But the war didn't die out. We had a new war. Apple, the mobile platforms, which is both proprietary, right? Yes, people that use Unix are lucky, and absolutely true. Because
Depend.
think
I think
about
the
it, right?
BSD Unix, right? Is I remember it's
Yes,
like they were, like HP Unix were pretty different.
yes, they are. I remember that my friend asked me how to do certain command on HP Unix.
Yeah.
Very different. I had to look at the
The BSD. I
documentation.
think the one we have is the BSD one, right? Not sure,
Yes,
but
correct.
yeah.
So in a way that not totally we are win by surviving. Put it this way, well, we win by surviving in a way that uh, thankfully we moved to the servers. People choose to deploy on a server, deploy on a Linux system on the Apache server using open source languages, and those things last very long because the support. So I'm going to go back to this later. The support are a bit longer, but they are slower. So open source are awesome in the way that we can access it and we can access it for a long time. But as you can see from Mozilla, those support need money. And you see from OpenSSL last time, uh, he do the support, but he cannot prioritize it because it's free. Yeah.
You can't
Well,
you can't win free.
actually, that's not true. A lot of people want Linux to fail, actually. A lot of people want Linux to fail because they have to be two and all that. They can't kill it because there's nothing to kill. What they're going to do, block the internet, right? But a lot of people was hoping that
Oh, I think one of the serious topic we have to cover is that back then the idea of the internet is we see it as a open area,
yes,
open and free area. So
yes,
which is very different from what we have right now. But I think we have to
correct.
wrap up.
Yes, I hope we can do part two one day. But even there, I will.
Yeah.
Chances
We
is I
have
will come back to this topic again and again and again and
yeah,
again.
yeah.
It's just one of those things that happen. And mark my word, I'm going to cover the I'm going to cover the anti-competitive side, the state versus Microsoft, and SCO and all that legal
I think
cases.
something that is related also is the how internet were different from now, how much
Correct.
it
So
was. So and why back in the days everybody we don't just simply expose ourselves, like we still know a
yes.
bit on how to protect ourselves. Like that's why we got silly nicknames.
So that will be next time because I'm
Yeah,
sure that with the recent cases and all that, I will revisit this history again. So with that said, I think I should goodbye and hopefully the internet
yeah,
will survive.
and remember to get Kyril up.
Yes, Kyril need to come here because he was one of the early open source people in Malaysia.
And source people, you have to open your source, your bottle of sauce,
Yes, and then we
your
need to
chili sauce.
show the battle between RMS with
We we
long time.
actually, to add in a more entertaining value is that we should actually get Han to be up here as well.
Yes, and that being said, I think we have to wrap up now.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're correct. So we have to wrap up and see you
Yes.
guys again next
Yes.
week.
Yes.
So, yep.
Ta-ta. Ta-ta.
Bye.